Free agent center Miles Turner has now agreed to a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Bucks, plus a player option for year 4. Bucks then went ahead and waived Damian Lillard, $113 million on his contract. That was in order to acquire Miles Turner. What we're here to assume now, Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to stay in Milwaukee.
In this video, there's no question in my mind that I am about to cover the most insane NBA transaction that I've ever covered on this channel. Because we're talking about a move that's so shocking that even Giannis Antetokounmpo himself wasn't happy about it, but at the same time, he tried to convince Miles Turner to come over from the Indiana Pacers. Something isn't adding up. But that aside, we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks making the largest wave and stretch in NBA history, cutting a future Hall of Famer and completely flipping the Eastern Conference upside down. But the real drama isn't just what happened, it's why it happened and what Giannis Antetokounmpo said behind closed doors that nobody's talking about. So before we get to the content, if I sound a little off in this video, my apologies. I'm still fighting off a stomach flu. Worst timing ever, right when NBA free agency went down. That's why I wasn't able to cover the Brooklyn Nets trading Cameron Johnson and Bruce Brown to the Denver Nuggets for Michael Porter Jr. My apologies for that. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? On July 1st, 2025, the Milwaukee Bucks did something that made the NBA world absolutely lose its mind. They waived injured superstar Damian Lillard and immediately signed Miles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal. But here's the thing, this wasn't just any regular transaction. This was the nuclear option, and before this video is over, you're going to understand exactly how 2 devastating Achilles injuries, a small market team's financial desperation, and one general manager's wild gamble created the most controversial move in NBA history. So picture this, it's April 27th, 2025, Game 4 of the first round against the Indiana Pacers. Damian Lillard, who had just battled back from deep vein thrombosis that kept him out for the final month of the regular season, is trying to help Milwaukee avoid elimination. But just 5 minutes and 57 seconds into the game, on what seemed like a routine rebound attempt, and Dame's left Achilles completely tears. Here's where it gets heartbreaking. Doc Rivers revealed Damian Lillard's immediate reaction. He said 2 things, which I love. The first one, he just said, "I can't believe I'm here." And then the second one is, "I'm not going out this way." But here's the cruel irony that nobody talks about. While Lillard's championship dreams were dying in Milwaukee, the man who would replace him was about to have the playoff run of his life. And that brings us to Miles Turner's incredible finals run that changed everything. While Milwaukee went home early, Miles Turner was carrying the Indiana Pacers all the way to the NBA Finals. We're talking about a guy averaging 15.6 points on an absolutely spectacular 48, 40, and 77 shooting splits during the playoffs, adding 2 blocks per game and proving he could perform when it mattered most. Turner had finally reached the pinnacle after years of trade rumors, being a loyal guy and staying in Indiana. The Pacers had made it, their first NBA Finals since 2000, but then disaster struck in the worst possible way. In Game 7 of the NBA Finals, just 4 minutes and 55 seconds into the first quarter, and Tyrese Halliburton tears his Achilles tendon. Their championship dreams died right there on the court, and this injury would set off a chain reaction that nobody saw coming. Before Tyrese Halliburton's injury, Pacers general manager Chad Buchanan had indicated the team's willingness to pay the luxury tax to keep their core together, and Rick Carlisle even said that re-signing Miles Turner was their top priority. Turner had spent 10 years in Indiana. He desperately wanted to stay. He even wrote an emotional Players Tribune article where he said, "Indianapolis, Indiana is the basketball capital right now. We really do this in Indy." But everything changed overnight when Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles. Pretty much Indiana's plan went from bringing back their core to having to avoid luxury tax because there's no point in paying it because they're not going to be competitive next year anyway without Tyrese. With Halliburton expected to miss most or all of the 2025 2025-26 season, Indiana's championship window slammed shut. And here's the part that's going to make you emotional: Turner's reaction when he realized his team didn't want him anymore. But before I tell you what he said, you need to understand the cold, hard numbers that led to this heartbreak. With Halliburton and Pascal Siakam already combining for $84.4 million, that's 59% of the salary cap, multiple sources confirmed that Indiana's offers to Turner never truly exceeded the 3-year $60 million range. We're talking about roughly $20 million per year for a guy who just carried them to the finals and was averaging career highs across the board. And Turner's reaction to this was devastating, saying you feel a little rejected. You feel like your value doesn't hold the same weight you thought it did. But then you start to learn it's just part of the business. 10 years of loyalty, a finals run, career best shooting, and they lowballed him by millions because they didn't want to pay the luxury tax for a team that was no longer a championship caliber team. So you might be wondering, what's Indiana's plan to replace Miles Turner? Well, 3 years ago, the Indiana Pacers offered DeAndre Ayton a 4-year, $133 million contract. But that was during DeAndre Ayton's restricted free agency, and that was inevitably matched by the Phoenix Suns. DeAndre Ayton just agreed to a buyout with the Portland Trail Blazers, and he's expected to get full mid-level exception type of money. So the Indiana Pacers are expected to pursue him once again, but obviously pursuing DeAndre Ayton, who's notorious for his laziness, his tantrums, his lack of work ethic, playing NBA 2K the night before his team is playing in the NBA Finals, is clearly a downgrade over Miles Turner. But hey, maybe Rick Carlisle could get the best out of him. Now here's where the story gets even crazier. John Horst in Milwaukee was watching all of this unfold and hatching the most insane plan in NBA history. Now before I tell you about Milwaukee's nuclear option, you have to understand their desperation. Brook Lopez, their starting center for 7 seasons and a key piece of their 2021 championship run, had just signed with the Los Angeles Clippers. Their defense was about to have a massive hole. Lillard was hurt, and worst of all, Giannis was considering his future. John Horst needed to make a statement, and he came up with something that nobody has ever done before: the largest wave and stretch in NBA history. Here's how insane this move is. Damian Lillard had $113 million remaining on his contract, $54.1 million for 2025-26, and $58.5 million for 2026-27. By using the stretch provision, Milwaukee could spread that money over 5 years, creating $22.5 million in dead cap hit annually through 2030. To put that into perspective, that's 14.5% of the salary cap tied up in dead money, which is just under the 15% maximum allowed. This was incredibly creative and absolutely unprecedented in NBA history. But here's why this move might actually be brilliant. Damian Lillard with Milwaukee averaged 25 points, 7 assists, and 4.7 rebounds per game on 44.8% field goal shooting and 37.6% from 3. He was still elite offensively, including a franchise record 39 points in his Bucks debut and 35 points in the first half of Game 1 against the Pacers. But the problem is he's 35 years old with the torn Achilles and was making $48.7 million, with raises coming to $54.1 million and then $58.5 million. On the other hand, Miles Turner is 29 years old and he just posted 15.6 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game on 48.1% field goal shooting and a career high 39.6% from 3. He's also one of 4 players in NBA history with 100 plus blocks, 100 plus threes, and 50 plus steals in a single season. The age factor alone makes this worth it. Turner's 29 years old and Lillard is 35 years old with a devastating injury. Now here's where the story gets a little weird. This move was supposed to make Giannis happy, right? Reports indicate that he called Miles Turner and tried to convince him to come over to Milwaukee. But apparently Giannis was not pleased with the team's decision to waive Damian Lillard. Let me repeat that. The franchise player that this move was designed to appease was not happy about it. Giannis posted this tweet on Twitter saying, "I have no idea what's going on right now, man." Think about how insane that is. You make the largest wave and stretch in NBA history to keep your superstar happy, and he's mad about it. But before you think Giannis is wrong, you need to understand what chemistry that Lillard and Giannis were building before the injury. Here's something that most people don't know. Back when Chris Middleton was on the Milwaukee Bucks, the combination of Lillard, Giannis, and Middleton posted a plus 18.4 net rating with a 125.9 offensive rating. Those are elite numbers that suggested that they were finally figuring it out. And then the Bucks trade Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. Doc Rivers had reportedly implemented dedicated practice time for Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo's 2-man game, and it was clicking right before Lillard got hurt. So you can understand why Giannis might be upset about cutting a guy he was finally developing chemistry with. But the Bucks clearly believe that defense wins championships, and Turner provides something that Lillard never could. But all of that aside, this move might actually be genius from a basketball perspective. The Bucks had been eliminated in the first round 3 consecutive years since their 2021 championship. They've won only one playoff series in 4 years, despite paying approximately $940 million in salaries and luxury taxes. Turner addresses their biggest weakness, which is interior defense and rim protection, while maintaining offensive spacing with his elite three-point shooting. And historically, teams that successfully transition from offense first to defense first have about a 65% playoff success rate in championship windows. The financial aspect is huge as well. This move creates approximately $200 million in combined salary and tax savings over 4 years, while preserving all of their future draft assets, unlike the previous Holiday and Lillard trade that cost them significant draft capital. But what does this mean for Damian Lillard? What does his future look like? Well, at 35 years old and recovering from an Achilles tear, his market value has completely tanked. Due to waive and stretch rules, he can't even re-sign with Milwaukee until after his original contract would have expired in 2027. So there are some contenders for Dame's services. Dame could return to Portland if he's feeling sentimental on a veteran minimum deal and just rehab there with his family, or Miami might still be interested since that was his preferred destination before the Milwaukee trade. But realistically, his championship chase that led him to request a trade from Portland in the first place might be over. The legacy implications are brutal. Lillard's 2 seasons in Milwaukee ended without reaching the finals, and his career might conclude not with the championship he envisioned, but recovering from a devastating injury after being waived by the team he specifically chose to contend with. But this move completely changes the Eastern Conference's landscape, and here's why it's actually smart strategically. With Boston being out of the championship running this season and Indiana losing Tyrese Halliburton for the year, Milwaukee needed to do something in order to compete with Cleveland this season, and Turner provides exactly what they lacked against elite Eastern Conference competition. This move itself moves Milwaukee from 8th to 4th in championship odds. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this absolutely insane transaction? If you're a Damian Lillard fan, what do you think's next for him? And if you're a Bucks fan, do you agree with this move? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I don't know if you guys heard, but Malik Beasley might have just ruined his NBA career by gambling on games. We have a completely separate video on that, and I'm going to leave it in the end screen to meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.